I noticed there's a growing stigma towards isekais lately. Many people from my generation simply refuse to watch anime the moment they find out it's an isekai. I don't really know why that is. I was suggesting ReZero to some of my friends because I really enjoyed the anime and they were like, oh my god, it's an isekai, isn't it? Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know. So let's analyze why that is, because I definitely think it's becoming a trope, but there are certain isekais that are done well, and there are certain isekais that are done very poorly, and because of that, it draws stigma to the entire genre. So first of all, what is an isekai? Well, it's when the protagonist from our world gets transported, either by death or some magical mean, into a fantasy, virtual, or gaming world. And with that said, you realize that isekais aren't just a Japanese invention. Mark Twain, for example, has wrote the famous book A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, which is one of my favorite isekais. And by this definition, Harry Potter as well. I mean, he is a kid from our world, which gets taken via a magical train to a fantasy setting. Now, as I mentioned before, there are two types of isekais, the ones that are done well and the ones that are done poorly. The ones that are done poorly never make use of the fact that the character is from our world and he is privy to the knowledge of modern technology that never gets implemented into the fantasy setting where he is set. It's just like the telenovela trope where the main character has amnesia. It's good for the viewer from a storytelling point where you get to experience the world alongside the main character for the first time, but it doesn't make use of the isekai setting. You may as well just create a fantasy world like Lord of the Rings, have a hobbit that's in a backwater place and he doesn't know much about the world, and you can experience it from there and it doesn't have to be an isekai. Because the main problem is the audience does expect the character that comes from our world to at least use some of the knowledge gained from here and try to solve the problems from the fantasy setting by using said knowledge. And this is where the isekais that are good come in. Ascendance of the Bookworm, for example, is literally that, where you have the main character that does use the knowledge they know from our world in order to improve the fantasy setting. Tanya the Evil is another great example where a corporate man that knows how to ascend the ladder and make himself useful for his superiors takes advantage of that knowledge into the World War I setting that he is being transported to, and is able to try and climb the military ranks as to be placed in a bunker far away from the battlefield. Overlord also makes use of that, where the main character knows everything about the game Yggdrasil and uses that knowledge into the new world in order to dominate his environment. And of course, the other way around is also very interesting and rarely done, but if the character has the ability to go between both worlds, like Harry Potter can travel to Hogwarts and back to London, he can sometimes use the abilities and magic that he learned at Hogwarts in order to save someone's life in London. And this is a very interesting plot hook because he wasn't allowed to do that, and that gets him in trouble. But my point stands, a good isekai should make full use of the setting. The character should at least transcend knowledge from one world to another. Otherwise, just do it like Lord of the Rings. Have the character in a backwater village, and he experiences the world for the first time. That's also perfectly fine. And then the audience doesn't have to expect anything else. The problem with isekais is that if you have, let's say, a scientist being transported into a medieval world, I do expect that he is going to do sciencey things. I do expect that he is going to at least try to improve the life of those around him. Now, with that out of the way, there are certain plots that I think all isekais have, and they are beginning to get a little bit tiresome. So, in most isekais, obviously, the character starts from zero. He's the wimp, and usually by the end of it, they get access to certain abilities, power-ups, which make them dominate everyone in that world. That's fine, but the problem is when magic starts happening, like almost all isekais have it. So the character gets access to some magic, which makes him OP, or he gets access to a friend that does magic, which makes him OP. And while I think like this is a good way of storytelling, it shows the progression of the hero and whatnot, I wish there were other ways that this could have happened, like something that doesn't necessarily involve magic. Again, if you have a character that has the knowledge from the previous world, well, maybe he can just spend an entire season trying to design a gun, like forge a weapon. And now he's got a weapon in a world where everyone uses swords and bows and arrows and stuff, and he becomes more powerful not by using magic but by using technology. And then maybe he can upgrade the gun. Maybe he can make it into a semi-automatic weapon or something. That would be something interesting to see, where the character just uses his engineering abilities in order to create power through technology. Again, magic is, of course, something that can be done, and it's also really interesting. But at the same time, it's being so overused that I hope I would see something else. And a Connecticut Yankee in King's Arthur by Mark Twain does exactly what I said. Like, he uses the technological know-how and abilities in order to make himself so powerful that people actually do think he is a magician, when in reality he is just applying science. So let me know what you guys think. And yeah, I mean, I don't... Now, to give an example which goes against everything that I've said up till now, there is the anime called Mushoku Tensei, or better known as Jobless Reincarnation. And it commits the sins of all the bad isekais that I've been saying. So, the main character is a shatin who gets reincarnated into a fantasy world, but doesn't really use any of the knowledge he has from the previous world. And the character becomes really OP just by using magic. So he has the body of a child, he is very frail, but because he has access to magic, he is very strong and capable fighter. However, the writing is so good, the plot is very captivating, there's a lot of drama and suspense, the characters are very well fleshed out, the universe is really well made, and this goes to show that even if an isekai does all the wrong tropes and is not trying to do anything new to reinvent the wheel, it can still be good. However, it really needs to compensate in all the other departments, such as character development, world building, interesting plot. And in this case, the anime pays a lot of attention to the details. It's very well polished. I mean, the clashing of swords, I wish I could show it to you here, but I would risk getting a copyright strike. Even the clashing of swords, like a very small training session, looks and feels amazing. So I would definitely recommend it to people. Which, yeah, I mean, it goes to show that you don't have to change the formula, but you really need a very talented group of people to pull it off. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Do tell me what your favorite isekai is, and I'll see you guys in the comment section. Take care.